I went back to work way too soon. I didn't know how to make this work. I had no idea. My first session back to work with a kiddo in home in the floor. It was a new client. He was 18 months old. I couldn't do the session. I cried. I was like, oh my gosh, this is someone's baby. Family was in a really challenging spot with some pretty challenging behaviors that was really impacting their lives, right? It was her first baby. It was a little boy. And she had so many dreams for her child. And life was looking very different for her. And I came home and I told Steven, I'm never going to another session again. Hello, everyone. Welcome to ABA Business Leaders Podcast, brought to you by 3Pi Squared. As you can see, if you're watching, it's just me today. No Steven. It's just kind of a gal group today. So with us, we have a panel of moms who are also CEOs of their companies. And so if you haven't heard, we started a support group this year. It's completely free. Please come on over. I think it's a great opportunity for you to meet with other BCBAs who are owners. But within that support group, we have a thread that's called CEO Moms. And I think out of all of our interactions on our support group, that's like the most active one, because there's just a need, right, for us to have that community and the village, right? So it takes a village, and it really is true, right? So I think it's so important for us to lean on each other as owners, but even more importantly, as mothers and caregivers. Without any further ado, I want to introduce our panelists. So today with us, we have Corinne, Tiffany, Jess, and Amarilys. And we're so excited that you all joined us today. Today's just going to be one of those episodes where we just hop right in and we just have a conversation. And those of you listening, hopefully you can relate. If you're not a mom who's a CEO, who's the owner of your company, I urge you to stick around. And because I think that if you aren't a mom, and maybe one day you aspire to be one, or maybe your partner is one, or, maybe it just can give you a good perspective of what it's like if you're working with someone who is a mom and a CEO, because they're, it's a little different world for us. And maybe you can just take this as a learning opportunity to peek in and see a little bit of what it's like. All right, so let's start with, actually, happy Mother's Day to those of you who are mothers, because as this is airing, I believe right before Mother's Day, or maybe right after. It's going to be airing near Mother's Day, and we're going to be celebrating mothers this week. We're going to have, our next podcast is actually going to be a panel of moms who have kids on the spectrum who are in ABA services, and we're going to really be chatting with them about their experience. So I'm really excited about that as well. Okay, so let's maybe just go around, and we can just start with Corinne and then move to Tiffany and then Amarilys and then Jess, and just kind of introduce yourself and maybe how long you've been in business, and if you're the ages of your children, kind of where you are in your motherhood journey.
Okay, cool. So yes, I'm Corinne. I have two beautiful children. One is 3.5 and one is 13 months old. And that has been a wild ride. And I'm still figuring out what being mom looks like, as well as CEO, because I opened up my actual business in LLC in November of 2025. So I'm brand new to being a mom and a business owner. And it's definitely been quite an adjustment. I'm still figuring it out. I've got a wonderful husband who picks up the gaps and helps figure out how to keep our little family running smoothly, so that I can try to keep my business running smoothly. My business is actually primarily focused with adults, because when I had my first, about 9 months in, I got to a point where I was like, I can't keep pouring into kids all day and then come home and also have a kid to pour into. And so I made a switch at that time to working with adults and haven't looked back. So it's a really wonderful balance for me personally to work with the adults and teens, because it's very different than pediatric little or early intervention kind of setting.
I'm Tiffany Remy, and I'm CEO of Kinpathic. I'm headed on the part of momhood where I'm starting to see some light. My son will be 8 this summer, so I'm out of the thick of it, and we're gaining some independence. But I actually also had him right before starting the organization And so we have been around since end of 2019. We started right before those fun COVID times. So that was interesting to have an infant and a new business and be experiencing that. We are located in New Hampshire, and we serve, kids as early as 18 months all the way through 18 years. So we've been around a little bit. We're still figuring things out. But I would say we're at a place now where we're even. And I feel like I'm finally, in a good spot with both momming and CEOing.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amarilys Morales, and I am the clinical director at AMA Behavioral Consulting, located out of Brandon, Florida. I am a mom of one, and we are in the thick of the toddler stage. It is a fun time over here. So I am learning a lot through her. I do work with the little one, so it's been very bittersweet to see her develop all of these skills while I'm in the thick of working with those little ones around the same ages, some a little bit older. So it's been very, very bittersweet to do both at the same time. My company is turned 8 in January, so we've been around for a little bit. We are a very, very small practice, only 2 BCBAs, with the goal of expanding slowly. But yeah, it's been very bittersweet to combine those two passions of doing what I love, and raising a feisty little toddler. So so excited to be here.
Oh, well, I'm Jess Marken. I am the owner of New View Autism. We are located in Central Iowa. I won't say where because I don't know, nobody probably knows. But I work with kids, more of that early intervention, very naturalistic style ABA with kids. And I have a daughter who is 11. So we are hitting the preteen stage, which is, I don't know if it's better or worse than the toddler here. I'll be really funny. I'll say that. I mean, there's always something funny happening. So being CEO and all of that, I opened up New View in June of 2023, but I was the clinic director for the clinic starting in January of 2020. We just changed ownership. The owners were out of state, and so really I've kind of been in that CEO position for about 6.5 years now, which is crazy to think, but made that switch into actually owning and able to make my own decisions, which has been really cool, in 2023. And so now that my kiddo is 11, it's been a lot easier to, be able to focus, like you guys were talking about, Tiffany, with, your 8-year-old getting a little more independent. That's been nice. But kind of as we were growing up, there was definitely, it was a struggle to balance both of those roles. So I don't know. I'm excited to talk through things with everybody today and hear, where you guys are at too. So
well, thank you all so much for sharing your experiences. For those of you who are listening, who have been around for any amount of time, may already know my story. If not, I'm just going to briefly share it. But we decided to start our own ABA company and just jumped right in. And then about a year into it, Stephen decided, okay, it's time. We built the savings that we needed, right? And we really were, insurance mandates had kicked in, and we were starting to learn the whole insurance and the billing and all the parts of that, right? And so we're like, okay, it's time. Let's for Stephen to officially quit his engineering job with paid vacation, paternity leave, really good insurance, and we're gonna fly with this thing full time. 1 week later, found out that our son was on the way, and we were like, what did we do, right? Not only financially, but just okay, we have this business baby. And then also, I have ADHD, and I had found a really good balance of the right medication to help me as I navigated all of this newness of being a business owner. And of course, the second that I got that positive pregnancy test, I was like, well, I stopped taking my medication right away, right? Because, that's the one thing, get your medical advice from your physician, of course. But, that was one thing for me. It was like instantly, okay, I have to be really concerned about what I put in my body and what I'm growing this human, and, maybe my OCD tendencies kind of kicked in a little bit more as well. And so like my neurospicy brain was doing its own thing while like pregnancy was doing its thing, while we were building this company that we had no idea what we were doing. And we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. It's probably a good thing. And so now that sweet little bundle of joy is 11. I'm there with you, Jess. It's quite an interesting, I don't think any phase gets any easier. It just gets different. Right? There are differences. And so I actually had to reevaluate my time just recently and make myself available every afternoon from 3 to 5, because I realized that things were falling apart and I wasn't able to be the mom that I needed to be. And I was getting frustrated because I thought, oh, well, we're like, I started to see the light. He's more independent, right? Like I can like do more multitasking and get work done at the same time that, that he's home taking care of himself. And we had to put a pause on that and kind of take a step back. And Stephen and I look and see, okay, how are we going to share these afternoons? Because we need to kind of like zoom back in. But I think that's part of what, as we started the support group and, as we started to get more conversations through the CEO Moms group, these are the things that are constantly adjusting and changing, right? There's no, okay, let me figure out what this mom thing is, figure out what the CEO, like this owner thing is. And we'll run both are so they're not a straight line of growth, right? Like they're all over the place and they're unpredictable and it's messy, right? And so us as being in the position where we're trying to handle both, right? We have to also take care of ourselves, right? And we have to figure out what that even means, right? Who's got time? So, it can be a struggle. And there are also positives to it, right? We get to have we get to be somewhat more in control of our own schedule, right? We can make some of those decisions. And as our company grows, hopefully, we can also see some independence there as we train our teams, right? And we can step back in certain ways and determine how we want to show up and what we want it to look like to some extent, right? So for me, there have definitely been a lot of surprises along the way. And that's just what it is. Those surprises are the ones that kind of throw you for a loop, because it's the things that you think you're prepared for. And you're like, oh, I've got this. Or, oh, I think this is going to be an issue, so I'm going to like really prepare for this. And then it's not really an issue. Maybe it's not an issue because you're prepared. But then there are other things that just kind of pop up and they're like, wow, this wasn't on my radar. I didn't even know this was a thing. What in the world? So let's talk about like those surprises. What is surprise, good and bad, right? Like the positive and the negative. What things have surprised you the most being, in this business owner journey and parallel to the mom journey?
I think aside from, one of the non-work related surprises was how much I would come to value sleep and silence. I used to love going to concerts and, all of the things. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I have 10 seconds of silence. Someone's not calling me. Someone's not next to me on top of me. So that was something that was just unique when you become a parent, because all of a sudden you have this little, bundle of energy and joy that needs you all the time. And I think that happens with, running a company too, right? You are the go-to person and somebody needs you all of the time. So it was surprising to think, from the moment that I'm not asleep, the moment that I'm up all night, feeding or changing or trying to bounce back to bed. And then now I'm also on the second that I go to work, and I'm on that entire time. It's on in a different way from when I was on being a BCBA or when I was on being a behavior technician, because when you're in those roles, you can almost, get really focused on what am I teaching? What am I working on in this exact moment? I'm here with my kid, I'm focused, or I'm here with a parent and I'm really focused. But now you've got the phone buzzing because something's going wrong with, childcare, or at the same time, you're in a meeting trying to, figure out or put out a fire that's happening. So I was a little bit surprised at the amount of things I would need to be attending to at once. Positively, though, I was really also, surprised that, having a different lens to look through in terms of motherhood really changed the way that I lead. So being able to sit down and say, how do I want my son to show up in the world? How do I want myself to show up in the world? I spent a lot of time thinking about my own values and how my behavior relates to those values. And then I was able to look through that lens at Kinpathic and say, oh, these are Kinpathic's values. And how do I want, our agency values to be reflected in the world? So that was a really nice surprise, in that focusing so much on my own values and motherhood, I was able to do that for the business as well.
For me, I'd say something that it came up with my son, which, because like I said, we opened as a company in November. I'm still baby CEO kind of thing. But my son, and I think I've shared a little bit about this in the CEO Moms chat when we were celebrating wins, or maybe it was one of the Win Wednesdays or something like that. But my son ended up having some delays, and he's still diagnosed with dysphagia, which is difficulty swallowing. And so we've been in the thick of it for the past almost 9 months now of therapies, feeding therapies, ECI, things like that. And on one hand, professional knowledge has allowed me to advocate for him in a way that if I wasn't in this field and didn't know early intervention is key and all of those things, that I wouldn't have advocated perhaps as strongly for him. But it's also really given me a new perspective and a new empathy for what families are going through. And it's really driven the mission that we've set forth with Empower Adults Consulting, which is now actually Amarilys Behavioral Health. That's a name change that we literally rolled out this week to better align with the fact that we aren't going to be just working with adults. We're going to add in some teen services. But when I was developing my mission statement, I was really looking at what are the gaps in traditional ABA, and how can I support families in our community that, for whatever reason, moms, dads working can't figure out a way to get to a traditional clinic or in-home service with traditional schedules. Because that was, something that as I'm trying to fit in therapy with my kids and how do I get this all figured out and stuff, that I realized wow, it was so eye-opening to think about maybe there's lots of families that they go to an ABA clinic, and because of you have to have this many hours out of the recommended hours, or our hours are 8:30 to 5:30, and that's it. That's the cutoff, right? I wanted to build something different because of my own lived experience with my son. So that was kind of a blessing and a curse. Do I wish that I didn't have to go through that? Obviously, but it's really been a guiding light for how I'm developing my company and our mission statement and where we're trying to focus our services.
I think for me, one of the biggest struggles has been all the emotional regulation that I have to do for everybody. So my daughter was diagnosed with autism, ADHD, and dyslexia a few years ago. And then I was recently diagnosed about a year after her. I feel like that's the story these days, right? Is your kid gets diagnosed and then you're that hits a little too close to home. And so that was part of, so trying to relearn some of these things about myself while also, helping my child through these things. And she's very intelligent. She's always questioning and always trying to understand the why. And so then I've got to pull all of that out. And then the staff, right? We get a lot of young staff who are coming in. And so have their own things going on that they have at home, and really trying to be more of that understanding, empathetic leader, and not just saying, well, that's your personal problem. It doesn't affect here, because it does, right? I mean, it bleeds over. Everything bleeds over. You can't just draw a line or draw a wall and say, oh, everything stays out there. Nothing ever comes in with you here. But yeah, trying to emotionally regulate between myself and then my kid and then all the staff at work. That I think was something that I definitely did not expect to be having to do all the time. But I think as far as a good surprise, it's been really cool to see how like my family's super involved with our company. And so it's been really neat to see like how the support, like while I'm supporting staff are also supporting, us too. And so it's a really cool like team dynamic that I didn't necessarily expect that either. To sometimes you get into leadership and you're like, oh man, like I have to make all the decisions, and who do I turn to, right? Like who's there? And I mean, I'm not sitting there venting about all my stresses to them, but it's still nice that they'll ask and, oh, hey, how are you doing? And like things look off. Is there something I can take off of your plate? Like, it's just nice to, have that part of it too. So
something surprising for me has been the tug of my expectations for myself as a mother and reality. So when we got pregnant, we were one of the couples that we didn't even know if we wanted kids. So when we made that decision to start a family, I had these expectations for myself that it was, where the baby's coming, I'm going to go straight back to work. I was planning everything out to a T, and she made her debut 3 weeks early, throwing me completely off of my track. So being the planner that I am, that's how I started motherhood. It was, oh my gosh, that night, my water broke. My husband was in the car, putting the car seat in the middle of the night. So that's how we started our journey as parents. And it's been one of the, I say that was surprising, because as the planner that I am, I thought I had everything planned out. I thought I had everything figured out, and her coming early, completely changing up my plan, has been one of the things that I feel like I'm still navigating. I feel like I'm still learning every day. Once she was here, then it turned into, I thought I was just gonna bounce back and go back to work, and that was the plan, right? And then it turned into, I actually want to stay home with her more. And I was not prepared for that. I thought I was just we do have family that also supports us, and that is one of our biggest blessings. So I thought, my mom is going to take care of her. I'm just going to go back to work. Then you have like the challenges of like time, and what does that look like? So for me, one of the biggest surprises was that tug of, I have my first baby, my business, that I absolutely love and adore, and now I have this tiny human who has completely changed I said I was not going to cry, and here I am. Just changed my outlook on life and what's important and our values as a family. So I wasn't prepared for that tug, and I don't think that as a business owner, nobody really prepares you for that, to say, hey, your plan may completely change in a matter of seconds. So that has been one of the most surprising things for me, just my expectations for myself and my plans for myself, and just adapting to the constant changes. Because even on a daily basis, I'm like, all right, yeah, let's go to work. And then on Sundays, I'm like, I'm going to play hooky. I want to go to the park with my baby. So it's a very interesting tug of the most important things in your life, and adapting to those changes that nobody talks about. And it's really interesting also to be in this role. Not a lot of people get the CEO and mother title. It is very different. I felt like I don't fit in anywhere. No one really knows like what this, because I'm a working mom, but I'm working 24/7, and then I'm also a mom 24/7. So you don't really get a break. So it's a very interesting category to be in. Now the positives of this is, someone here mentioned that empathy that grows with, now I am a mother and I understand my parents a lot more. We talk about sleep more. We talk about eating more, doing those check-ins with our families to make sure that they're okay and that we're there to support them, whatever that looks like for them, whether it's a schedule change, whether it's, you just need somebody to listen for a couple of minutes until we can regroup and then get back on track. So it's definitely changed how I view myself as a leader as well, and just making sure that we're leading with our values, and just making sure that we're the best providers for our families.
Yes, thank you all of you for sharing. I mean, that's why I'm so excited about this conversation, because I think that those listening will really relate to at least one, if not all, of the experiences here. When my good friend and I, she's not an ABA, but she is a real estate agent, and has a really thriving business. And she's her mother was an entrepreneur. Her mother owned a Hallmark store, and so her mom used to say that her store was her twins, right? And then my friend, her only child, but still was her child, right? So she had 3 kids, the twins, which was the store, and then her kid. And so my friend Katie has, over the years, she shared with me those stories about her mom. And so that kind of gave her a little bit of expectation, coming into being a mom and an entrepreneur. And one of the biggest things that she learned from her mom and helping her mom with the store over the years was to pivot, right? And that was a newer thing for me, pivoting, right? Because I'm such a planner. And then, your typical ADHD kind of scattered kid who throughout my life was like, oh, if you just try harder, right? If you just work at this more. And so I thought, okay, so I've got to plan all the things. I just have to really work hard to make sure I have everything planned perfectly and lined up just the way it's supposed to be. And then everything will work out. But no, it doesn't work that way. So if anything that I've learned in this entire journey has been how to be more flexible and how to pivot and how to not take it personally as my work, how not to measure my worth by those things. It's quite a journey. Motherhood itself, all alone, is quite a journey. And I do think that being owners of ABA, being in the ABA field, come with its own specific set of, I don't want to call them challenges, just circumstances maybe, right? Because, there's that, we do this for a living. We help other people with their children for a living. But what about our own kids? Does that hold us to do we feel like it holds us to a different standard for our own kids? Or even as Corinne said that, she realized that she couldn't be there for littles all day long and then come home to littles. I had a similar experience. I went back to work way too soon. We were doing payroll when Willis was 2 days old. And we were we had all of our paperwork lined up, and we were I just didn't know. I didn't know how to make this work. I had no idea. We were working out of our business pretty much working out of our home the first 9 months of his life with people coming in and out. And he was a super early talker. And I joke that it's because he was surrounded by BCBAs his whole entire first year, right? He had no choice but to be a talker. But he also had speech issues. He had some swelling. He has a feeding. We had a whole nursing journey that was another level of hard on top of that. And, so I was also sitting in a speech therapist's office in the waiting room as a parent. And I get a little tiny taste of what that would look like. And then my first session back to work with a kiddo in home in the floor. It was a new client. He was 18 months old, and I cried. I couldn't do the session. I cried. I was like, oh my gosh, this is someone's baby. And he was, the family was in a really challenging spot with some pretty challenging behaviors that was really impacting their lives, right? And, it was her first baby. It was a little boy. And she wanted so much, had so many dreams for her child, right? As we all do. And life was looking very, very different for her. And I came home and I told Stephen, I was like, I'm never going to another session again. It's I'm done. I was I'll sit behind a desk for the rest of this whole journey. I want to continue this journey. I'm even more passionate about making sure my staff is going to show up in the ways for these families, but I can't do it. Well, and I did go back, but I did take some time. I backed away a little bit from that, and I did pour into my staff a bit. And then I did go back to working with some of my prior clients that I had, some of my older kids that I had worked with prior to, going out on maternity leave for the whole 2 weeks I went out on maternity leave. Because that's another thing. Do we even get maternity leave when we're owners, right? So yeah, so it does give us such a perspective, an understanding of others and the families that we work with. However, I think too, I don't know, maybe this is just my own experience, but I feel at the same time it can be very lonely. and we can feel really alone and feel like no one else feels the way that we're feeling right now and no one else understands. Those of you who know me know that I don't believe there's such a thing as balance, right? I go into a whole kinds of like squirrel mode when I start talking about this. But there's so many things that we have to do, and there's so many things on our plate, and there are so many things that we feel like we're the only ones that can do, right? And it makes it really hard for us to do life sometimes, right? And I think it's really big in society right now. Maybe it's just social media, but like the talk of like mental load, right? And if there's specific challenges with that you guys have as a mom and an owner, and anything that maybe you have found that even if it's just in this season and it's a small help in this moment, that maybe someone else could it could help someone else. If there's anything you want to share.
Okay, I'm going to jump on this one super quick.
Yeah.
This is what, like, I don't know. When you were talking a little bit, I was like, my brain was starting to go this direction of like, when you, I don't know, maybe this is just me like growing up, but like, I would always think of like CEOs or owners of businesses as they have it all together, right? Like, they have everything together at work. They always show up to their meetings on time. They always have everything ready right away. Their kids are like so well behaved, and there's always this fabulous dinner on the table, and your house is clean, and just like people have it all together all the time, right? And luckily, so before I got into ABA, I was a preschool teacher, and then I did in-home daycare for a while. And I had a mom that she was a lawyer. And so I always had this just like, oh gosh, she's just, she comes in and she's dressed so cute, and her kids are always dressed so cute, and she's got it together. And then there was one day she came in and said, I'm really sorry, but they're still in their pajamas. And they had cold pizza for breakfast. So if you've got anything a little healthier, maybe, and it just was kind of like an eye opener of like, oh, it's okay. Like people perceive you, right, as, oh, you're in this position, and they have this thought. And so then that comes on to you, and you're like, now I have to have all of that together. And there have been other conversations like throughout like recent times of other people that, friends of ours who are in higher leadership positions. And we just laugh about all the silly things that we have to do, and how we walk into meetings sometimes and we're stumped, right? Like, oops, I forgot my notes, or I have no idea like the answer to that question. And so just being genuine and saying like, I don't know. I can look that up for you, right? Like, but I don't have to know all the answers. I think has been a really good like fact check to just myself that it's okay to not have it all together all the time. And I think that was the biggest thing for me, was to give myself like permission to let some things go, and that it doesn't always have to be perfect, because I too am like, it has to be like my way is the best way. Of course it is. Like, why wouldn't you want to do it my way? Right? Like it's efficient. It's, not messy. I don't know, whatever, like all these things. But then I sit there and I'm like, I only have so much in my bucket, right? Like I've got a bucket, and every little thing is to drop out. And by the end of the day, if I don't let somebody help me, I'm not going to have anything left in my bucket to give to anybody else. And then I'm not an effective leader, an effective mom, an effective wife, like all those things at the end of the day. Giving myself permission to say, it's okay. It's all right. Other people can do it. And it's all right if it's not exactly how you would have done it, as long as we get the same goal, right? Like the mess is picked up, and there's, you're fed, and it may not always be the most healthy thing, but you got something in you, and, things are running well. So
you're spot on, Jess, with the kind of letting go part. Like, I think that's been one of the biggest challenges for me. And it's going to be a challenge for the rest of my life, probably, because, similar to Amarilys, you were talking about the need to have everything organized and in a box and ready to go. And before I had, my son, that was me. I was like down to the minute, and it still trickles in here. I have people to spot check on whether or not I put lunch into my calendar. But that's the hard piece, like giving up the control to say, like, if something fails, it's going to be fine, right? At the end of the day, that kind of like flexibility to be like, okay, this didn't go the way that I had planned it to go. And whether that's, the fact that I have 16 different apps to check my school newsletter, right? What I'm registering for lunch, the pickup time, if it changed, and who needs to be there to pick up, and, the thing I need to buy, and then the next kid event that's happening, like all those things are coming in, via technology in all sorts of ways these days. And I'm trying to focus on all those well, I've also got my Google Calendar, to the T for the company. And then I've got 16 other calendars that I'm also supposed to be monitoring. Things are going to fall apart sometimes. And like you said, you just have to be like, that's okay. Like it's all right to not have it all together and kind of like look back. I think that at the end of the day or the end of the week or whenever you really remember to even do it, because sometimes I don't. One thing that's been really helpful for me is reflecting on the successes of the day, right? Like what are those little bright spots that I felt like I was a good mom, right? I try to do that with my son at night. I'm like, oh, buddy, like, let's think about like, what is some part that you thought was really like awesome about your day to day, whether it was just something super small, like, oh, like I remembered my water bottle, because sometimes those are the big things, especially for kids. It's like, oh, I have this super cool stuffy, like my kid's really into Pokemon right now. So sometimes he's just like, Mom, I really love Pikachu. That's my bright spot. And I'm like, that's great. Like, it's so awesome to find that tiny thing that makes you so incredibly happy. And when you get in the thick of planning and scheduling and making sure that we did the laundry and that we didn't forget about bath night, and it's so easy to lose sight of those things, and that happens cyclically. I find myself in those spots where I'm like, oh my God, I'm so in everything that I don't know what day it is. I can't remember the last time that I was like, oh, wow, I really enjoyed that activity, like fully enjoyed something without being distracted by like my to-do list. And so you have to be really intentional about it in order to keep that kind of positivity and that like lightness to things when you're trying to navigate keeping track of 400 things every day. And you have not only, your own child relying on you, but the families that you serve are relying on you. The staff that you hire are relying on you. And so I think those components together can feel very heavy sometimes. And, April, you mentioned like feeling like you're, alone, like on an island out there somewhere. I always hear that phrase that when you're solo at the top, you're just there by yourself, right? It's like you're at the top of this mountain. So having that community and like the one that you guys have established, I think is really, really helpful.
So a couple of things based on what Jess and Tiffany have said. I think I was really blessed when I was an employee in a pediatric ABA clinic to have kind of a front row seat to the CEO and COO of the company being moms. And I joined that company when their kids were like 2 and 3 months old, and was a part of that company up until the kids were 7. So like I got to kind of see the mom journey there as like a front row seat. So like I kind of got to see them grow as business owners and as moms, and kind of seeing like some of the challenges that they ran into. It kind of gave me like an idea that like in my own journey, like it's okay to, like you guys said, not have the answer, or to to have to kind of prioritize, like I got to be mom right now, or I got to be CEO right now. And that then has given me permission to try and start telling myself, I don't have to have set working hours. Like I can be CEO from 8 to 10 and mom from 10 to 12, and then back to CEO for 10, 12 to whatever, and then do bedtime and then go back to like, I don't have to work 8 to 5 every day, right? Like it can be a flexible schedule. And within that, then maybe there are times where I'm in mom mode and an employee calls and I have to really like say and teach my employees, is it an emergency? Like, is it time sensitive? Do I need to talk to you right now? Because if it is, I'll temporarily pause mom mode and go into CEO mode, right? But if it's not an emergency, then I'm going to stay in mom mode because that's what my family needs right now in this exact moment, right? Like if I'm at a daycare event or, it's bedtime or something like that. But if it's an emergency mode and I can, because I can't always switch out of mom mode because of my husband's work schedule. He's a firefighter, so he's gone 1 out of every 3 days. So sometimes I literally can't be in CEO mode because it's bedtime and I'm the only one putting the kids to bed, right? So like there's been a lot of an adjustment in these last 4 or 5 months of like giving myself permission to not be always on for the company, because sometimes it's just literally I can't. And I explain that to the employees, and I'm fortunate that all of my employees are also moms right now. So they understand it. They've been either they've either been in the trenches with me or, their kids are older, but they still remember it. And so there's a lot of empathy and shared grace for all of us. Kind of, I think it was Amarilys that was saying that, like, of understanding, like, when your employees are going through something too, and like having that ability to like help them too, helping them deal with it, because we can't, and Jess, I think, mentioned this too, like, we can't always just like put everything out at the door and say like, life doesn't exist when I walk through the clinic, because that's just not reality. Like, we're going to carry that with us. And so how do we help each other deal with the mom piece of life that sometimes we can't put to the side?
My thoughts are very, very similar to what you all have experienced. I think for me, especially with like the mental load, has been accepting help, and asking for help when I'm like actually really drowning. I come from a Hispanic background where the female typically makes all of the meals, keeps the house clean, takes care of the kids. And I'm kind of breaking the mold, in that I'm attempting to do all of those things and also run a business at the same time. So it's been very eye-opening for me to put some of those stereotypes to the side, and those kind of like cultural expectations, and just ask for help whenever I need it, whether it's we hired somebody to clean our house, and that's like unheard of in my family. So really looking at like what are those things that need to take a pause, and I don't need to do myself. How very similar to what you all have been experiencing as well, and just accepting that help. I will say I have 2 resources that I want to share. I'm a big book girl, and learning from other people's experiences. One of the books I'm reading right now is called Drop the Ball, and it's one of the biggest concepts is, if somebody can do it at 80%, can I delegate it? And that can go across both business and mom life. If somebody is able to step in and do this for me at 80%, can I let it go? And then also, being the perfectionist that I am, that is very, very hard, but work in progress. We're working on it. And then the other one that I really, really loved is called How to Keep the House While Drowning. And that book is written by a mom who also has ADHD. And she talks about her experience with trying to keep up with all of the things and kind of the mental rules that we create for ourselves. So one of the examples that I really loved in her book was, you can't run the dishwasher until it's full. And she's like, well, why not? Like, who came up with this rule? So it really pushes back on like some of those rules that we create for ourselves, that like, why were they even rules to begin with? So those 2 books have been really, really great for me in accepting help, on asking for help. A month before my baby girl came to the world, I actually hired a credentialing and billing company. And I think that the timing couldn't have been more perfect, because I was doing all of those things myself, and I would have failed terribly if it weren't for them helping me out in that area, as well as my family stepping in to support. One of my favorite memories of my brother was postpartum. He went into my kitchen and cleaned my kitchen. And I was like, it sounds very small, but the magnitude of that action, and I have a beautiful picture of my brother in my kitchen, spotless kitchen, by the way, good job. It's one of those, the little things, that accepting that help and knowing like, I'm not alone and I don't have to do this alone. It's really hard, but it's also to feel that love and that support is one of the most beautiful things that I have experienced in my motherhood journey. So, accepting help is one of the biggest things, I think, with the mental load, and assigning those things out when you have people that are willing to jump in and help you out.
I would say that asking for help it's such a huge step. And even this many years in, my team has recently started encouraging me to stop participating in some meetings because they've got it. I have also a wonderful team. All of our administrators, minus one, are also moms, and they're in a really good place to say, like, we've got this, like, you can step back, where's your focus? A book I like to recommend is called The One Thing. I think it's by Gary Keller, and it really helps me to say, what is the the one thing that should take priority today. And although I love contributing to these meetings, I love knowing, as a CEO, you feel like you need to know what's going on in every single department and every single role and every single family and every kid. And I think my co-owner, Sylvia, and I, one of the biggest shifts that we had to make was, oh my gosh, we don't know every staff's face any longer. We don't know, every kid's situation. We don't know every family personally. And having to move, away from that and be that involved in everything and know everything, it's another, I think, struggle to relinquish some of that control and then be able to say, actually, we've got a much larger, agency now. I think we're, heading towards 60 staff over here, which was not our plan in the beginning. We wanted to be teeny tiny. But being able to ask for help gives us back the time to really focus in on those things that are a priority or are those things that are going to drive us forward or, make sure that we're available, mentally, emotionally, physically, so that we can keep doing the work that we're doing. Because, it's cliche, but they always say you can't help others till you help yourself, right? I feel like I think, April, you mentioned what does that even mean? How do we help ourselves? How do we take care of ourselves? I think, we forget as BCBAs to even use the tools that we recommend for other families. We're like, I'm so great at developing this parent training. I'm so great at coaching this person. I'm so great at mentoring this, mentee. And then I myself am a mess over here. Right? So another big thing that's been helpful in that regard is acceptance and commitment therapy. That's something in the last decade that people have been talking a lot more about. And that really was helpful when I felt like, I don't know which direction I'm going in, going back to those things about figuring out your values. Are you aligned with your values? Are your actions aligned with your values? Those things have been really helpful as well.
I'm trying to make a shift in my schedule at work of prioritizing one setting or one kind of role each day. Because so far it's just been kind of like, I just put meetings wherever and I just see clients wherever because I'm still in both clinician and business owner role right now. And because we work with, here in Texas, the Medicaid waivers for the adults, we have 2 agencies we work with. I'm getting ready to sign another contract with another agency, and we have a day program that we contract with, but this is all consultation, maybe 30 minutes to an hour a week with each client kind of thing. So it was kind of like, well, I'm just going to see clients with each agency whenever, blah 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 blah, right? So and then my schedule is like crazy, right? And I'm trying to bounce back and forth. And I also have ADHD, and that just isn't working. So now I'm trying to say okay, Mondays are more for invoicing and working on the business. And then Tuesdays are with this agency. And then Wednesdays and Fridays are with this agency. And then Thursdays are with this day program, right? And it's given me structure. And now I'm also giving myself permission to be a little flexible. Because if I have this plan, right, and then I'm rigid, it's still not going to work because things are going to come up, right? But in general, it's a rough plan. And I can't remember the name of the guy who wrote the book and has the planner system. It's the full functional planner, I think is what it's called. But he talks about having your ideal week. And so you set out what you would love your ideal week to look like. And then same thing, right? Things come up. You can't always stick to your ideal week, but it gives you that template to kind of go off of. And my former boss at that company that I worked for is actually the one who introduced me to it. And I used it as a BCA and a clinical director. And then, time has shifted and I'm in a different role. And so I wasn't using it anymore. And as I was starting to feel just the overwhelm and the chaos, and I was like, what? Right? And then I was like, I got to go back to this, right? I know this works. And so that's something that is kind of the priority of the day. What's my overall priority of the day? Okay, it's this agency and the clients at this agency, or it's in-home ABA at this point in time kind of thing. So that's similar to what Tiffany was saying is something that I'm implementing and going back to, and I'm finding it has really taken some of the mental load off because I already know the baseline of my week.
Yeah, I was going to say something kind of similar along that of something I'm this is like a recent change for me, because I'm the same way. I'm just like, oh, like when are you available? I'll make it work for you. Like, I want to be so accommodating. But then at the same time, then I'm like, okay, but now I'm not getting this insurance call done. And now I'm not getting back to this potential like staff member. And, things were like dropping. And so something like recently that I'm trying to implement more consistently is to look at like my to-do list and pick like one or two like big projects, right? Like these are just my one or two big projects for today, and not looking at the list and saying, oh my gosh, I have all these big projects. I have to get these done first before I can get to the little ones, right? Because then you're sitting there all day and then you don't get through all the big projects, and then you feel bad that you didn't get through all the projects. But if you can divide it out, then you still have that like mental load to say, okay, these were my big targets for today, and I've got some time. I've got some wiggle room that if I do have to pause and go, help with the situation, then I can go do that and come back. But I know that it's okay because I'll have time later in the week to get to those other big projects. I don't have to do them all right now. And I think that's been a big shift, because for the longest time, it felt like you're just putting out fires. I didn't ever take the time to sit down and say, all right, I need an hour, a couple of times a week where nobody talks to me, and I'm just going to sit here and take the time to look at my schedule and to plan those things out instead of just responding to everybody else's crisis. It just not effective, when you're doing that, and you burn yourself out. So
I think it's
absolutely
about mindset though too, right? Because we all talk about Sunday scaries, right? You're like, Sunday, like, what do I have to do on Monday morning? Do I have the lunch prepped, and do I have this going? And did I get to that email? And did I finish the treatment plan? And I, for the last year, really have been trying to change the way that I view that. And instead, that's when I do my planning, and I'm like, Sunday success, right? Like I'm setting myself up for success by doing what you guys are doing with your schedule, saying like, this is what's going to happen on Monday. This is what's going to happen on Tuesday. And then, like you said, Corinne, working with the flexibility, like if it didn't go the way I planned, I now have the skills to navigate that. But looking at it that way every Sunday, instead of saying like, oh my God, here's this like laundry list of things that I know I'm not going to get to. I'm not going to get to it all, or I'm going to feel like, I'm upset when I didn't finish that one big project, or something, moved me from it. Instead, I'm like, hey, these are the things I'd love to see happen during the week, and I'm going to feel really great when they do. And just having that little shift in perspective, if you can set that up regularly, I find that when the things don't go to plan, I'm like, I set this up in the way that I wanted to see it. I gave myself some wiggle room, but also then, knowing like these are things I can't budge, right? Like my kid's karate class, he's got a test this week. I'm going to be there. I'm going to show up. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be present for that. So nothing else gets blocked in that time. Everyone has access to my calendar, and it says I am not available. That makes me, even if those other things, don't work out, that is the piece that I can hold on to say like, I showed up for that. I did that. And now that's carrying me through the remainder of the week.
Yes. I mean, everything that you guys are saying like resonates so much. And I just love that it's all coming together in the way that it is in this conversation, because, a lot of these things that I've tried myself, and I feel like I've, taken different strategies to learn, like reading books, listening to podcasts, listening to other moms, trying to figure things out myself, trying to apply the science. I'm also really big into ACT, so like trying to apply that to myself. But, sometimes, like you said, Tiffany, sometimes it's about what can I get done now to help me next week, right? What can I put into place, or what can I put on my plate, or what can I take off my plate to help set me up for success for the next week? I believe in weekly planning for sure. But I do think it's important to understand what kind of time you have to work with. That's been something that I've recently reconnected with. And I took a little time log. I really truly believe in taking a week or 2 weeks to take your own little time log. It doesn't have to be perfect, just to kind of see where am I spending my time. And I realized that the reason I was chronically behind and overwhelmed, I had gotten myself back into that spot again, was because I had the mentality that I had a 40-hour work week, but I don't. I really have about right now in my season of life, I have 20, maybe 25 hours a week that I can dedicate to full on focused time. And that includes meetings, right? And so that was eye-opening. Once I recognized oh, because right now I'm in like sandwich generation. I'm helping to take care of my in-laws. I am often going to doctor's appointments that take a full day out of my life. And do I want to be there for that? Absolutely. And then, I'm a little bit different right now because my company is with, we're doing 3 Pi Squared, and we have our podcast, and we have a million projects going on. And that does allow for some more flexibility than if we were seeing, like when we were clinic based, right? When we were seeing clients. And however, Steven, my husband, my partner, he has the availability to have closer to a 40-hour work week, right? He's he's the lead of the company. He's and it's a decision that we made together of, okay, who takes what, so it is kind of, how we've decided is my role to do the afternoons with our child. However, I did say, hey, I need one afternoon. Can you give me one afternoon that I could like have a work day? So I could, because what happened with me is like by the time I can sit down to do work or whatever, I would get in the zone, and then it's time to turn it off and turn into mom mode, right? And I was really finding that challenging. So together we worked on that. And so like Tuesdays is my day, right? And he greets our child off the bus. He does homework time. He's a great dad. He's an involved dad. It's just that I had taken that role. And so it was hard to ask for help because I felt like, and I even told him, I said, I feel like I'm not a good enough mom. Like, what, right? Why do we do that, right? And so now on Tuesdays, there's understanding in our world that Willis comes up and he gives me a hug and tells me about his day for like 5 minutes, and then he leaves. And like I'm in my office and we pretend like I'm not at home, right? So that's just one little thing that happened that's helping in this season. But I love Corinne, how you're talking about, flexibility but also like having that routine and that flow of, okay, maybe Tuesdays are meeting day. Maybe Wednesdays are invoicing day. Maybe Thursday's a day that we just get to hang out at the clinic and observe some sessions and pair with our staff and, whatever that looks like. But I do think that I'm curious, from so many good things that you guys said. I really want to sit with these things too. And I hope that our listeners, maybe even as you listen to this podcast, listen to it and then go back and like listen to it in little excerpts and maybe choose one thing that one of us has found helpful for us and say, that may be one thing that I want to take away and try next week. Don't try them all. Don't try to change it all at once. Don't be like, oh, they all seem like they've got it together. They all seem like they've got great ideas. I'm going to do all of it. Yeah, no. You will end up in bed under the covers.
I think it was Jess that said that, hearing the lawyer say, my kids are in pajamas and had cold pizza for breakfast today was kind of a like shift and an eye opener. And I promise, I don't know about the rest of you, but having it all put together is the very opposite definition of our life right now. It's just organized chaos.
100%. And I had this, I think there's this, how do I want to say this? I do think there's this sense of learning ourselves, right? And that's a process within its own, right? Just for humans, as we grow and we learn and we change and we hit new seasons of life, we have to learn to adjust and change and grow and even figure out who we are. And as moms, sometimes those first 10 years of life, maybe even more, maybe forever. I don't know. I'm only 11 years in. We lose ourselves and when we start to get some independence and, our kids are able to do more things and we're finding ourselves with a little bit more extra time. I don't know if that's the right way of saying it, but then we're like, oh, well, who am I and what do I even like? What would I do if I had 1 hour with nothing on my plate? And same as we grow our businesses, right? We're always going to be part of it. But as we should, as owners, not have our hand in everything. Like Tiffany was saying, I mean, you don't have to attend every meeting, right? Figure out your dashboard of what are the key metrics that you want to hear, that you want them to report back to you. And then you check in on it. And then when you kind of have like a measurement for yourself of, oh, when this starts to happen, yes, I can hop in before things fall apart. I can like start asking questions. I can still be part of it but you don't have to do everything. But as that shift happens too, what I think sometimes we find ourselves in that season of life where we're like, well, I don't know what to do with myself. So like right now, for instance, like Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday from 3 to 5, I'm mom mode. Yes, flexibility, of course, like Corinne said. 10 to 2:30, I'm a work mode. But even through that, I have like days that I have myself available for meetings. And then I have focus blocks where I'm like teaching myself this whole thing. I'm sure all of you are already there, but I am not, teaching myself to like focus on one thing and one thing only during a certain amount of time and doing it well and, you know, getting through that. It's been a process, and some days it works great. And I'm like, look at me. Why haven't I done this? Why haven't I been doing this every day of my life? I'm like, this is easy. All I have to do is like set my timer, put my sticky note, do my thing, and okay, I conquered life. I know what I'm doing. And then the next day, I'm an hour and a half into my 2-hour focus block, and I'm still scrolling.
Problem is my email, right? If I leave that tab open and I'm supposed to be focused on something else, I have to go in and specifically close that tab out and be like, I am not going to check my work email during this hour. Yes. Otherwise, I'm ping-ponging back and forth between the two. And then I'm like, wait, what did I even start this block working on?
100%.
Pulled into something else.
A lot of times when we're in these things, right? But it's also like, okay, but my staff needs me, or my kid needs me, but like the fires, right? What about like for us? Like, do any of you have any very specific, like, I'm like, I got my 3 to 5 is for my child. You're like, I've got karate, right? Is anyone blocking time where they are saying, don't bother me for no reason?
I wouldn't say that I necessarily like block it where I say like I'm not available. But like I try like one day a week just because I need like a recharge day.
Yes.
Where I don't talk to people. Mm-hmm. I don't want to see anybody. I mean, like my family, of course, like my husband, my child, my dog, whatever, right? Like I can't avoid them. But there are some days my husband's like, do you just want to go to like a hotel and like just not look at anybody or clean it?
Yes.
Okay, it's yet to happen, but it's a nice idea. I don't know. I just take like a day. Usually those are Saturdays, and it works out great because my kid also needs a recharge day. And so we'll both say like, we need a day where we don't have to, it doesn't matter what time we get up. It doesn't matter if we brush our hair. It doesn't matter if we change out of our sweats. Like we can just do whatever we want, whether that's watching TV or playing video games or doing crafts, whatever, but not feeling that like urge to have to check my email or have to, answer a phone call. I mean, there'll be days where my sister texts me and I'm like, I'll get to him when I get to him. You know, it doesn't feel like that pressure. So not necessarily like intentionally like blocking it out and really, I don't communicate that the best. Maybe that would probably be better too. But I think just having some time to like tell yourself, I'm not feeling the rush to get back to everything. So I've gotten there. It doesn't always happen. I mean, but trying as much as I can, because I know I can't keep my own head above water if I don't take some time to recharge. So
mine is a combined answer. I'm going to go a little bit back to what you were mentioning about your like weekly and daily task. Whereas for me, when I was trying to create a schedule while being at home with my daughter, it became the tug of being a present mom and being a present CEO. And those two, you could try to make it work, but it is extremely, extremely difficult. So as a family, we made the decision to enroll her in daycare, which comes with its own set of mom guilt and all of the emotions that come with that. But what I had to tell myself was I'm a better mom because she is currently at a place where she's being cared for and all of the attention, and she's getting that those experiences, and I'm able to focus on the things that I need to focus on. So something that, and I've shared this in the group, and it's been really, really exciting, is that I kind of have a work block where it's, let's say 9 to 3, 9 to 4:30. I kind of try to schedule it that way. But Fridays are my protected days where I work a half day, and everyone on my team knows I am not available. And I go and spend the rest of the day with my girl, and we go on adventures. And that's something that I kind of look forward to every week. And it's been, it's really hard to set up those types of schedules because something is always happening. But I really do try my best to protect that time together so that I know that I'm doing everything to make that happen, and we can create some really awesome memories instead of me trying to divide myself into 500 different roles all at the same time. I haven't gotten to the place where I have like that uninterrupted me time. I do try to schedule a weekly aerial yoga, which is really fun. I did work with a act therapist, who told me one time, she's like, you don't have to just completely sit still and meditate, for this to be effective. And I was like, what? You don't have to stay still. I didn't know that. So aerial yoga has been really, really great for me as the adrenaline junkie that I am. So that's been really fun. So I do try to schedule that in, at least on a bi-weekly basis is my goal. But that's as close to a schedule for myself for like that recharge that I've kind of found that works, or that's a work in progress because it's not consistent, but that's as close as I get to that.
For me, it's been a journey because my husband's schedule rotates, right? So it's a 3-week rotation, and it's set in stone. So I could go 3 years out and know when he's working, right? Like, so it's predictable, but it rotates, and so I can't say, oh, it's Tuesdays or oh, it's whatever day, because 1 out of every 3 weeks, he's going to be working that day, right? So what we settled in on was the day before. So the day he comes off shift, we do what my daughter affectionately calls big bedtime, which is bedtime with mom and dad. And so she gets mom and dad at bedtime on those days. And then obviously when he's on shift, bedtime is just me. And then the day before he goes back to work, daddy does bedtime and mom has free time. What I'm trying to do is go into our home gym and work out because that's literally the only time I can find to do it right now. But sometimes I just literally sit in the garage and just sit. No phone, no TV. I'm just like, peace and quiet. But that's what we've settled on. And, as the business is growing, sometimes it's just not possible because like today would be my time, but I'm making a day trip up to Oklahoma to do a parent training intensive, and then coming back home. And so I'll get home at like 9 o'clock tonight. So it's just not going to happen, but there's that flexibility, right? But that's the goal, is that, every 3 days or so, I have a half an hour to 45 minutes where there's nobody bothering me. The kids are either in bed or being put to bed by my husband. I don't even take the dog in the garage with me. Like literally it's just me in the garage. I can work out. I can just sit and be. We have a TV in the garage. I could technically just turn the TV on and watch, but a lot of times I'm just either listening to music and sitting, or listening to music and trying to do some kind of movement, whether it's lifting weights or stretching or, just something. And that's what we've settled on. And that's like the 5th iteration, guys. So if you come up with a plan, right, and you're like, okay, we're going to do this, and then you find it's just really not working, like it's okay to abandon the plan and try something different. And then abandon the plan and try something different until you find what is actually truly going to work. Because we tried mornings, we've tried it all. So this is what's working for us and our family right now. And I really appreciate having even just that like 30 minutes of peace and quiet where sometimes I don't even bring my phone in the garage. I take my watch off. Like it's literally like just me.
I think, I am so lucky to have my mom nearby. She has been part of my son's life since he was born. They have such a wonderful relationship. And so she's also the person that knows like when I need a break, or when I need some space again, I'm just so lucky to have her to have that extra bit of time. But I think I have a little bit of a unique perspective because my son travels between homes. I'm getting him to his dad's, I'm getting him to my place. So those little blocks of free time have shifted as the season of our lives have changed. And where I used to have somebody in the house with me to be like, oh, I'll take care of that so you can go meditate or so you can do this. There's no longer anyone else in the house physically. So when I wake up in the morning, it's like, okay, what's this time? What's this got to do? What are we doing there? How are we getting here? So I think that I did this just this past year in the fall. I was like, I need to schedule these blocks of time where I am going to a physical gym where someone can't engage with me. So I have had that in my schedule since September, and it's at these weird blocks of the morning, right? It's like the trainer's like, oh, I can only be available, like 8:05. And I'm like, that's like prime start of the daytime. Like, I want to be at work at 8, so that I can get out at 2 to get my kid in the pickup line, because I have to sit in the pickup line for 45 minutes if I want to get him. But I haven't budged on that. Occasionally I'll have to cancel due to some actual meeting that needs to be held, but having that space where I know that I have to be there. It's not, I tried working out at home. That didn't work. I'd be like, oh, my phone rang in the middle of yoga. Okay, let me go take care of that. So I really do think it's about figuring out those supports that you need in place to get you into a consistent routine or a consistent pattern and accessing that downtime. I think you mentioned sitting in your garage, Corinne. That's like, sometimes I literally just go into a space where it's dark and it's quiet. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm re-regulated. Like, I can breathe. Like, there's no noise. And those protected blocks, though, I think, like you said, April, like having them, my tendency is to want to fill them with something. Like you said, does anybody have any time where they just do nothing? That's the hard piece for me, is the doing nothing part.
My husband will often come into his voiceover booth, which is where I'm at right now, and just sit. He might scroll on the computer, but sometimes he just sits because it's soundproofed. So he can't hear anything that's going on in the house, right? Like, and so sometimes that's where he'll come and just do his own de-stress, silent time. So yeah, just you got to find wherever your space is, whether it's in the house or out of the house, kind of thing.
Yeah, our old house had a walk-in closet in our primary bedroom with a door, and it was dark. And there were many times where I just found myself in the closet. I actually put a pillow in a cozy blanket and a stuffed animal for myself back in the corner of that closet. I was like, you know what? I was working with a life coach at the time, and I felt so much shame for that. And she was like, girl, go buy a new blanket. Go buy like a stuffed animal, get a weighted blanket, get like a cool water cup or whatever. Like, make that, like, bling it out, make that your place, right? And so I did. And so we moved to our current house. I didn't have that, and I missed it. But now I have my office. However, so I have a cozy chair in the corner of my office. So I've now, like, that's the space. It's not dark, but it's still, the good news is I've pretty much trained my family that if the door's closed in my office, like, pretend I'm not home unless the house is burning down. But then I was going to my office, and like, that's my place for work. So then I wasn't really like checking out. I wasn't getting the time. So now I've like kind of conditioned myself to like my cozy chair. That's my place. When I'm sitting in that chair, like, that's where I can like relax, and I don't have to check email and, all of the things. So yeah. So if there's one thing that I would suggest the listeners do this week, just maybe explore where a quiet spot might be for you, if that's how you recharge. Not everyone recharges with a quiet spot. But yeah, find a little, make a little cozy corner for yourself. We do that stuff for our kids and our clients, and, we help our families find that for their learners that we're working with. Do it for yourself. Find yourself a little cozy corner. That might be kind of fun to try out.
Or aerial yoga.
Or aerial yoga, 100%. And that's it. It can look whatever. Like, there's no wrong answer. And like Corinne said, try again until you find, because those of you who are listening to the podcast and not watching, like, we were all like aggressively shaking our heads. Yes. It's not like, if I don't want anyone to listen to this and think that we all have it figured out and it's easy, because it's not, and we don't. And what's working for us right now might not work for us tomorrow, and that's okay too. It always amazes me when I take some time for myself, whatever that looks like for that season. And then I come back, re-enter life, and think, wow, I feel like a new woman. I wonder why, or I'm surprised every time, right? And this week I'm like, I feel so depleted. I'm so tired. And I'm like, oh, I've been going probably almost 3 weeks straight without taking even a day, like, complete, because we've just had life happens, right? So I'm like, okay, Sunday afternoon, let's see what I can do to make Sunday afternoon, a couple of hours, be about be what I need so that I can go into next week and not feel as depleted. But yeah, so none of us have it together. None of us have a secret magic button. I wish we did. If any one of you listening does have some kind of magic button or secret that works like 90% of the time, gosh, 50% of the time, I'd take that. Let us know. Call into the podcast hotline, leave us your story, leave us all your tricks and your magic spells, and we will definitely use those and share those. But guys, thank you all so much for your time and for showing up and for being vulnerable and sharing your stories today. I want to give you each a chance, if you have like a takeaway that you want to share with the listeners. I want to give you a chance. I say takeaway. It doesn't have to be some big, bold, broad, it doesn't have to be fancy. It can be any little thing that you would share with a friend that you just might want to leave the listeners with a little advice or encouragement as we end today.
I think just like what you said about, we don't all have it together. Like you might look at us and think that, but we don't. And just giving yourself, like I said earlier, like giving yourself that permission to take the time to not have it all together, to make the mistake. What's the worst that's going to happen? Right. Like, and being okay with that, something, there might be a hiccup here and there, but it's all right. The ball keeps rolling and you've got another chance to try. So just keep at it.
I would say, especially if you are in a leadership role or you are a CEO of an organization, you're modeling for the staff around you, right? You're modeling for your employees how they approach being a mom and navigating work at the same time. And if they see you, come in every day and being there for, 50, 60 hours a week and, canceling kids' appointments and not taking yourself to the doctors, they're going to feel like that's the expectation for them, right? So I think it's our role to model how we want, to be for them and how we want them to feel when they're employed by us as well. But I think bottom line is be kind to yourself. As everyone else is saying, like, it is okay. You're gonna kill it for 3 weeks. You're gonna be amazing. You're gonna go to the gym. You're gonna have lunches packed and write, little love notes in the lunchbox. And then you're not. And that's okay. And then 4 weeks later, you might have a really good week and then not a good week. But that is how we're all living. Find those support groups, join April and Steve on Discord. Cause it is really, really nice to be able to get together with a group of other moms who are experiencing the same thing that we're all experiencing. And sometimes even just to say like, I did no laundry this week, and everyone to be like, totally cool. That's really great.
I think my little tidbit is just kind of in line with the other ladies here, is to give yourself grace, right? We're not perfect moms. We're not going to be perfect CEOs. There's going to be mistakes that happen in both mom life and in CEO life. There's going to be days where you just are like, why, right? Have your moment, and then, take your me time, and then get back on the horse and keep going. It's gonna just one foot in front of the other kind of thing some days, but you're still moving forward.
I want to end with what I've continued to learn the hard way, and that is asking for help when you need it, trusting that who you're asking for help is going to give it their all, sometimes even better than you originally planned. So I'm really trusting those support systems, trusting those family members, those friends. I'm so, so grateful for my village that has backed me up in these past couple of years, and my incredible team that has also backed me up and helped support this new journey that I'm on as a mom. So trust those who are willing to help and accept the help. That's okay. You don't have to do it all yourself. I'm talking to myself always as well. It's okay to not do it all yourself and ask for help.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here today. It means a lot to me too. I love being able to provide provide a space for these conversations to happen. And for those of you who are listening and you're wondering about that support group, the link will be in the show notes. It's completely free, no strings attached, other than you just have to use that. We use Discord because that was the platform that we could provide to keep things free. So go there and go to the link, and you'll fill out like a little registration form. And then our amazing coordinator, Melanie, will get you all set up. And if you have any questions, you'll have her to connect with to help you in any way to get that set up. And then, like I already mentioned, the podcast hotline, if you want to call and share your story, we would love to hear it. The number is also in the show notes. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you again next week.